time to grease up your forehead and hit the gas, Mason.
Hell yeah.
It's Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga.
That's right.
It's finally here, a mere 9 years after the last Mad Max movie, which isn't the longest gap between Mad Max movies, but it's still too long. Is it too late? Maybe. We'll talk about it. On a budget of $168 million, the box office initially was predicted to be about 40 to 45 million, which would be on par with Fury Road. Bearing in mind, and we talked about this recently when we covered them for Caravan of Garbage, Fury Road did okay.
Nobody expected it to do well either.
No. Yeah. And it probably broke even and it took on a life of its own. And I believed, and I think you were the same, that it was a bigger movie than what it was.
Yes, I remember talking about it a lot and loving it and going, oh my God, it's a Fury Road. But I guess the world at large was like, oh yeah, Mad Max.
It's good.
Maybe I'll see that on DVD.
It's good, maybe.
It's good, maybe.
Yeah, but I think it's obviously done well enough on streaming and they're selling various versions of it that Warner Brothers thought to put this much money into it. But this is via Deadline. Ouch. It's looking really bad. Warner Brothers is Fury.
That's a classic line from the movie, by the way.
Yeah, that's true.
Remember when he handcuffs Toe Cut out of that car and he goes, ouch. That looks really bad.
It's looking bad for you. I bet you're wondering how you got here.
That's
it was
right.
me.
Mad Max. Matthew Max Rockatansky.
That wasn't Toe Cutter either, Mason. That was Jimmy the Boy
guy.
or something.
Yeah, right.
Still a great joke. Furiosa is possibly posting the lowest opening for a Memorial Day movie in 41 years.
Damn.
With 4 days expected to hit between 31 and 35 million.
Oh, because this is a holiday in the US.
That's
this
right.
is a big holiday weekend.
Having a great time.
Great. Must be nice to have a holiday weekend.
We'd never had one. In Australia, they don't give us holidays. They say, get back to doing communism. That's what they say.
They do say that.
And we have to.
Because we want our free healthcare. We're going to do communism. We don't like it. Then they take away Australia Day.
They took it away.
We don't have it anymore. They took that day off the calendar.
And they said, you're an idiot.
Yeah,
I didn't like that. How the holy heck is that? If the George Miller directed prequel comes in on the low end, the last time a number one movie or Memorial Day opening filed a 4-day gross take that was lower was back in 1983 with Return of the Jedi, which made $30.5 million. And that was a lot of money back then. Also, it says, for all the hell we gave Disney / Lucasfilm Solo a Star Wars story back in pre-COVID 2018 with its 103 million 4-day debut, geez, that looks insanely rich by comparison. Apparently, this needs 440 million to break even. Garfield also opened, which might do a little bit better despite not having very good reviews. I think this movie is late.
Arbuckle, a Garfield saga.
So it's catless?
Yep.
Good.
But not free of a big cup of dog semen. We do see the origin of the big cup of dog semen.
That's right. Everyone Google that comic. I think because this was delayed due to COVID, I know Warner Brothers and George Miller got in a legal dispute about payment behind Fury Road and all of that.
Yeah, you had to sue him to get some money back.
Yeah, I think this might just be a little bit late despite the marketing campaign for this. And forgive the pun, it's Mad Max, Mason.
Got him. You absolutely got him. Whoever needed to be got just then, you got them.
But they're everywhere. They're literally everywhere. You cannot. Like, it's YouTube videos, it's bus shelters, it's whatever, man.
It's the middle of Melbourne at the bloody Flinders Street, across from the clocks. You can see an ad for Furiosa.
And people seem to be liking it as well. I've just got some quotes here. This is via Film Updates. It said, Furiosa received a 7-minute standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival. This one's also via Deadline. Megalopolis debuts at Cannes with a 7-minute standing ovation. People magazine said, Kevin Costner is moved to tears by a 10-minute standing ovation for his passion project Horizon. He said, I'll never forget this. IndieWire also gave the film a C-. Just via Variety.
James, can I head you off here? Are you suggesting that every film gets a long-standing ovation at Cannes?
No. This via Variety. Johnny Depp is teary-eyed as Jeanne du Barry receives a 7-minute standing ovation following its premiere.
I honestly thought you were going to say Johnny Mnemonic. It's a 7-minute standing ovation.
All I'm saying is I don't know what these people are doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I quite liked it. We'll talk about it, but what do you think the story was?
Oh, come on, mate.
Yeah, come on.
All right, well, it's a tale of the future, and in the future there's been war.
Yep.
There's been war, and then we opened on a wonderful place. It's called the Green Place, and it's named such because it was built on the hallowed land of Greensboro Plaza Shopping Centre. A holy land from in the before times. You could get a donut and see a movie.
Really?
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the great place, and there's young Furiosa.
Yep.
Named such, even though her parents probably didn't know how furious she was going to get.
They had no idea.
Bad call,
Yeah.
in my opinion. She gets stolen away from the green place, and
Yep.
then goes on a big adventure.
And then Fury Road happens after that.
Then Fury Road happens after that. Yeah.
It's a revenge plot of sorts.
It is.
Yeah,
Of
it's a
sorts,
survival
certainly.
story.
That's right.
It's structured more episodically than Fury Road.
Yeah, it's broken up into chapters.
This is the most lore-heavy I think Mad Max has ever been.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
This one is the departure from the previous ones because it is based heavily on a previous one.
Yeah.
It's not, all the other
it has
ones.
to go a certain way.
Other
right?
ones are largely unconnected. This builds quite heavily on Fury Road. We see a lot of the same cast of characters, a lot of the freaks from the previous one.
Angus Sampson.
Angus Sampson is there.
Yep.
We'll name other people as well.
Name them along the way.
We'll
don't
name
worry.
them along
we
the way.
remember.
Don't even worry about it. We won't spoil which member of rock royalty from the band UMI is in this for a minute.
Oh, Tim Rogers is in this.
Tim Rogers is in this.
He's in it for a bit.
He's in it for a bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we won't name which former Australian Prime Minister is in this.
It's John Howard.
It's John Howard, yeah.
But not that John
No,
Howard.
no.
He played Bob Jelly in Sea Change. He was also in the previous one. He's the guy with the metal nose.
The People Eater, right?
The People
Yeah.
Eater. I liked this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it falls down in a few places. I don't think it's as good as Fury Road.
Well, see, that's the thing, and we really have to keep perspective here because I think it is probably a rare person who is like, this is better than Fury Road. But
I've been in the Mad Max Reddit. Some people are
exactly,
saying that.
of the last 5 to 10 years of movies, action movies especially, this is very good.
Yeah,
like there's
absolutely.
some really great action sequences in this.
Fun performances.
I would have thought, based on the previous one, there is no more ground to cover in terms of interesting, innovative action sequences, but I think there is in this. I think there's some new interesting things in this. There's some fun takes on aerial combat that they didn't have in the previous one, and I'm like, okay, you would do that in the
you shouldn't,
in the
but you could.
post-apocalyptic future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, I think good performances all around. But yeah, it does fall down in a few places. But again, don't get us wrong. I think this is worth watching. It is definitely worth watching on the big screen.
Yes.
I think that if you have plans to see this movie, don't wait till streaming. I think you should see it at the movies because it works better on a big screen. I don't know if there is an IMAX release, but if there is,
I believe there is. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Now, Mason, this might go to YouTube, and people might say, Mason, you were just afraid to say that you didn't like it.
Oh, of course, because I'm a coward.
Yeah. What do you say to that? Being from communist Australia.
I am afraid. I'm afraid to express any opinions because the government will get me.
Yeah. Because you either really, really like something or it's bad. Is that right?
There's no middle ground, as we know.
Cool. I'm just clarifying.
As we know, we're
clarifying.
going to say before spoilers whether this is the best movie ever or the worst movie ever. And I want to say it's the worst movie ever, but I'm afraid.
You're not allowed to.
I'm going to say it's the best movie ever. Spoiler alert.
How did you feel about Anya Taylor-Joy taking over as Furiosa?
Good.
I also thought it was good.
We also get a young lady, who I had to look it up, her name is Alila Brown, I
Who
think.
plays Little Furiosa.
And it's actually quite difficult to determine where the switchover happens between her and Anya Taylor-Joy. Like there is a period where she spends some of her formative years like always wearing a mask to masquerade as someone else, and then at a certain point you're like, oh, it's Anya Taylor-Joy now.
Yeah.
How long has it been Anya Taylor-Joy? So like in terms of casting, especially sort of eye casting.
Eye casting is hard.
Good job.
Yeah, you need to put goggles over those eyes.
Yeah. But do you believe her as like an action powerhouse?
I do. I think if I had a complaint of this, well, first of all, what the initial plan was, they were going to de-age Charlize Theron, which I think they wouldn't have even needed to do necessarily, especially if they filmed this. This came out in like 2018, which it should have.
And again, all of this, there's the timelines are vague.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't really matter.
And even, George Miller's mentioned this in a few interviews. I love listening to that guy talk about films and stuff. He's great.
Do you love him talking about video games?
Yes,
James?
I do sometimes.
Because
we'll get into that.
Someone asked, should we do it now?
Okay.
Say your thing. Your little thing, it says on your screen, it says, get fired up about this thing you're going to say.
He said, and I'm so fired up, even when the best directors use de-aging, you're just looking at the technology, the de-aging technology. And that is true of me. Like when I'm watching Indiana Jones when that happened last year, I couldn't stop looking at it, whether it looked good or bad. The only thing I was really focused on was, what is this? Like, oh, it's bad here, oh, it's good here,
Is
that bit's all right.
Is there some de-aging in this? The Bullet Farmer, I think. Is that the same actor?
Yeah, that is the same actor.
Then they've de-aged him.
Okay, fair enough.
I think. Or it's an excellent makeup. It's an excellent makeup job or a somewhat noticeable CGI
Sure.
de-aging.
Yeah, potentially. I honestly, I didn't notice it. But you know what I would have liked?
Yes.
I would have liked the entire third act of this movie to have Charlize Theron return.
Right.
And to use that as the lead up.
Okay.
I think that also would be like, why would you get Anya Taylor-Joy to then replace her in the third act?
Yes, exactly.
But I think narratively, that would have worked better for me to go in that direction.
Yeah.
But look, no, honestly, no complaints. And you know what I thought was really good?
Go on.
Charlie Fraser.
Who plays Furiosa's mother. I thought she was great.
She's amazing.
She's only in the first act. Now, I haven't seen this movie. She's also in Anyone But You, right? So I don't know what her deal is in
I
that
didn't
movie.
recognize her at all, even though it's very clearly the same person.
But so she plays Furiosa's mother at the start of the movie before Furiosa gets taken by the gang members, and she is really good in this. She's depicted as kind of capable and angry, and kind of she's skilled, and you believe that she is someone who sees her daughter get kidnapped and is just like, I'm going to get on horseback and I'm going to follow, and then I'm going to headshot a bunch of gang members and steal their motorbikes and put together a functioning vehicle and then go on a chase.
Yeah.
Like, you don't...
Oh, that whole opening is incredible. Like, it's probably the best stuff in the movie.
Very
maybe?
strong opening.
Yeah. Really terrific.
But she's good. I would like to see her in more stuff.
I agree.
She's Australian, I assume?
She's Australian, yeah.
Because Anyone But You was in Australia.
Anyone But You is Australian. Chris Hemsworth, Dementis, just a fun time. Like
Absolutely.
Like a dreadful man, obviously, but really fun.
He's a sort of wannabe. He is a cult leader.
Yeah.
He's a cult leader who his ambitions outstrip his skill, probably. Like,
absolutely.
He's
There's a moment where he just gives away like two of his best guys in a trade, and he's just like, like he's very self-destructive.
He's very self-destructive, and he's very full of himself. And there's a moment where he meets up with the antagonist of the previous movie. He runs in. They end up in the Citadel, and he's like, I'm going to destroy all of you, and then it just does not go his way at all.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting.
Absolutely. I thought it was interesting that when he first shows up, he's wearing like a white robe, and there is that cult leader aspect of him, and he's using this kind of softer kind of deity kind of persona and even voice. And then he very quickly devolves into this, oh, g'day, mate, how you going? Like, Chris Hemsworth based this voice off his grandpa.
Okay. And they all sounded like that.
They all sounded like that. Like, that's a very specific voice from, like, the 70s and 80s that a lot of us, they had this kind of nasally kind of like this, which it doesn't really exist anymore, but it makes sense if this started in the 80s.
Yes.
That this guy would exist, right?
Yeah, and of course we learn in the Mad Max prequel comic books that came out around the same time as Fury Road that Immortan Joe was a military guy, and so were all his lieutenants, and then he became this warlord. We don't really know how Dementis became the way he was, but I like to think he was an office guy. Just worked in an office.
He could be.
Yeah.
So look, the effects in this.
Yes.
There's some very ropey green screen at times.
This movie
There's a tanker chase.
This movie does not look as good as the previous movie, and it's sort of this gave me the same vibes as The Fall Guy, where we spent the entire movie going, well, this doesn't look great, and then at the end we see a montage of all the real stunts being performed for real, and you think, why did you smear visual effects all over this movie? At the end, this is not a spoiler, I don't think, but at the end of Furiosa, we get a montage of clips from Fury Road, which look a lot better.
Yeah.
The explosions look more dangerous. The stunts look more dangerous.
I think a lot of this is down to safety. As well,
absolutely.
Which I don't look. If it has to look like this so nobody dies, that's fine.
Well,
obviously.
exactly. And I also want, and then, as you mentioned, Fury Road didn't do as well as we all assumed it did, based on the look of the movie. And I'm wondering if they went, we will let you we will give you the money to make this, but you cannot.
That was a disaster.
You cannot.
The whole making of that.
Yeah, I mean, we all, there's plenty of interviews and stuff that suggest it was an insane shoot. And I think perhaps they said, you can't leave people in the dark as what you're making, and we need to see everything done the right way, and etc. What's interesting as well, just as a side note, so Anya Taylor-Joy in interviews has said something along the lines of she didn't know what was happening. Like, it's a very isolating kind of shoot.
Yeah.
That's a sort of same thing. And that's what happened with Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron when they did the last one.
They don't have all the pieces.
They don't have all which is interesting because, as it differs from this movie, the Fury Road was just a trip across the desert in one direction for about 2 acts, and then it was a trip back in the same direction.
Yeah.
So it seems odd to me that George Miller couldn't just point to a bit of paper and go, we're here now. Like, if that was George, I don't know what's happening. I feel so lost and I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
He couldn't go, we're here today. You're still going in this direction? And then tomorrow we're going to film some stuff going in the other direction.
I think a lot of that was also weather dependent.
Oh, yeah.
And like they switched things on the fly.
Right,
and Tom Hardy wouldn't come out of his trailer. I read an interview, well, it was about George Miller. He thought like, I don't know why I've cast this guy. I wish I had Heath Ledger. Like he literally thought that.
Right.
Because Heath Ledger was going to be Mad Max at one point. And there's a guy in this who is Mad Max. We'll talk about that.
So, but what I would, before we get, that's kind of a spoiler. We'll talk about that. What I would say is that, again, like this.
Not literally, by the way.
No. Fury Road is very, very straightforward. This is more broken up into chapters. There's more world building. There's more lore. What I felt maybe was a downfall of this one. And again, the first one is sort of lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And it is that endless action sequence. It's almost entirely action all the way through. To me, this movie, it made the universe feel quite small.
Because it's set between like 3 citadels, basically.
It's between 3 citadels. But I mean, Fury Road was as well. But to me, when you saw that movie, to me it felt like every trip across the desert could end in death.
Yeah.
And everything may as well be a million miles away. Like the idea of they want to go to the green place or they want to go to the gas town or the bullet farm or whatever it is. They go through and there's storms and there's fire tornadoes and all this sort of thing.
You don't know who's going to attack you.
Exactly, and who's going to live and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. And it just felt like every trip is a journey into the unknown and kind of who's going to survive.
And there's a bit of that.
There's a bit of that, but it also this movie felt, because we know all the players and we know all the locations from the previous movie, it felt to me like it's just we're just going down the road. It felt a little bit. We're just popping down a gas.
There's also literally a road, like a paved road.
Yes.
One of the action sequences, which is very reminiscent of what they used to do in the old Mad Max movies, but Fury Road. It's like a tanker takedown sequence.
Yes,
That to me was the kind of the ropiest one in terms of special effects. Like technically, it all works and it flows and you understand what's happening, but it does feel like they're on a road and there's green screen and whatever, and there's like flying elements to it, like you mentioned. I thought that was digital. Yeah, that's real. Like they had people like rigged up. They had like cranes dangling guys on fans, like going after the tanker, which I didn't think. So I think the one action sequence which was most reminiscent of the last one, I think, isn't as good as the other one. But the newer stuff, like I did like. There's a moment where there's a section that takes place in the bullet farm, and that to me felt very, because I've been playing through the Mad Max game. I finished it now. It's amazing. Where that felt to me like a level in that, where you go in and you kind of like, you grab a car, that car's fucked. Okay, snipe this guy, and keep running. Everyone's piling on top of you.
There's an army of disgruntled, insane people who are like scrabbling to survive, and they see a thing that might be their salvation. Yeah. This tanker full of stuff. It felt like maybe something out of a zombie movie, just these insane...
Yeah. Wait, you're talking about the one at the fuel depot or the one at the bullet farm?
Well, there's a couple, isn't there?
There's a couple, yeah. But those sequences I really liked. And you mentioned the bit at the Citadel at the start when Chris Hemsworth turns up, and that's a fun moment where you see that the Citadel isn't something, and we've seen this in the comics, that you can just walk into and expect to go your way.
Yeah, and again, in terms of the canon of Mad Max movies, I think this is very good. Maybe I feel like because we see so many of the same players, I go, okay, well, we are definitively setting this in the same universe. There's not as many surprises as I would have hoped for. Like, I think maybe the thing about Fury Road is there were so many new freaks in it.
Absolutely.
You got a guy with bullets.
Got some old freaks.
You got a guy with bullets for teeth and just a weird pervert in a 3-piece suit and Immortan Joe and all the war boys.
And it's those guys, but again.
But it's those guys, and again, I would have loved another sequence in a new town full of lunatics, and I guess we got that with Dementus's gang.
Yeah, sure.
I
hear what you're saying.
There's some decent freaks in that.
At the start, you see the world, right?
Yes.
What I can't remember. What does the world look like outside of Australia? Is it all desert?
I think the only detail we get zoomed in is Australia.
Okay.
Which definitively puts the action of the Mad Max Saga in Central Australia.
This part, yeah. I thought it was interesting who they brought back. So Immortan Joe is in this, but Hugh Keagsburn passed away, so they got Lockie Hume, who I like.
Who either is Skase or got Skase in Let's Get Skase. I think he got Skase.
He might have got Skase.
I don't think he was Skase.
He also plays 2 characters in this. He plays another one-eyed guy in this.
There's at least a couple of people.
Who play a couple of people.
Elsa Pataki is in this, so Chris Hemsworth's real life wife.
I want to talk about that also. Okay. God damn. I got things to say about that.
Is that spoilers or is that...
I thought it was, but no, maybe not.
So she plays one of the residents of the Green Place, one of the council leaders, I think, at the start of the movie. She also plays a character who I couldn't place. I think I might know who it is, but in the credits, she's listed as, I think, Mr. Norton.
Mr. Norton, yeah.
There's a woman in Dementus's gang who is very heavily facially scarred and look sort of Joker style. Is that her?
So what happens?
Yes.
You know what? This is probably a spoiler thing. We might just hang on to it.
Let's hang on to it.
I thought there was a character arc there, but there's not.
Right, okay.
Because some people play two characters.
Yeah.
But I thought having a Morton Joe in this, I felt he felt less.
Okay.
Did you get that? The physicality of it, the voice.
because he's less of a legendary character. In Furio, it is a shame that we have to keep comparing these things. We shouldn't. It's as an action movie, very good.
Yeah.
If you saw any of this in any other movie,
yeah,
you'd be like, "Whoa, look at this is crazy." You know, but it's
You're saying this is a Star Wars prequel.
Yep. This is the Phantom Menace of Mad Max movies, is what I'm saying. Yeah, because we don't know anything about Immortan Joe. And the prequel comics did that as well. They took away a bit of the mystique of this character. He's just this enormous bulk of a man who's being held together with plexiglass and breathing machines and what have you, and we don't know where he came from, but he has this cult-like hold on all these thousands of people. And in this, he's just sort of walking around.
Do you think that is a result of them leaning into the lore of this universe and over-explaining things? Because Mad Max movies, they don't really do that.
Yeah.
And if you want to know any details about this movie, this universe, you either read the 4 comics that exist or you read or watch interviews with George Miller, because nothing else exists like around this.
That's true.
Well, this also brings in some video game stuff, as mentioned. Like Chum Bucket is in this at one point. You're the little mate in the game.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this to death, but that 2015 video game, George Miller did all the concept art and whatever. Well, he didn't do it himself, but, they designed this whole world, and this is what Fury Road is going to look like, and then they stepped away from it, and Warner Brothers just made that game. And that's why there's so much stuff from the game, not only in Fury Road, but there's a fucking ton of it in this, which I liked, actually. It's there's also the History Man. Like, there's more History Man stuff.
That's right, yeah. We finally see that in live action. It was in the comic books. It's mentioned briefly in Fury Road at the end.
Yeah.
We get a quote from the first History Man. But in this, we actually see these kind
There's
of...
a few of them, yeah.
Yeah, these kind of tattooed men who and women who are...
They're Wikipedia.
They've learned the knowledge of the previous world.
There's also the character of Smeg, played by David Collings.
A second bite of the apple this year in big Hollywood movies. Guy from the Umbilical Brothers, who was also in The Fall Guy, yeah. There's also, I feel like maybe this movie is sort of the victim of, we'll have to talk about the spoilers, but is in the victim of so many rewrites, probably over nearly a decade.
Probably longer.
There's a couple of plot elements which I think we'll probably talk about in spoilers that I think maybe were intended to go somewhere initially, and then now they're just there.
Okay.
It's just stuff now.
Oh, should we talk about the guy who's Mad Max, but he's not Mad Max? The guy who shows up and's like...
Let's talk. I reckon let's draw a line here. I'm going to say best movie ever.
I'm also going to say
in terms of action movies, it is very good.
Yeah.
Everybody does a great job. It is unfortunate that it is followed by... It's like anything that followed Casino Royale or anything that followed The Matrix or anything that followed some
other movies.
Empire Strikes Back, anything like that. I mean, speaking of the soft performance of Return of the Jedi in 1983 or whatever. I'm going to say best movie ever. Definitely see it on big screen.
Despite all of these criticisms, I did really enjoy it. But I'm just unsure whether they're ever going to make another one of these, honestly, depending on how this goes.
If they're going to do it. Well, I mean, George Miller has talked about he said he wanted to make a prequel that explores the origins of Mad Max.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said, do you mean like the movie Mad Max?
No.
But I think maybe he wants to
make it's called The Wasteland.
Yeah, he wants to do something that sort of matches the aesthetic of these versions.
Yeah, okay.
And maybe make it more crazier and chaotic, and maybe set his origin further into the future, like define it as not the late 70s, the early 80s.
I would like, if he does do it, to go beyond Thunderdome.
Nice.
But also beyond Fury Road. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
The period leading up to Fury Road now, this is spoilers, by the way.
Oh, we're in spoilers. It's big time spoiler time, folks. Did you say it was the best movie ever?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great.
We know that already. Also, I know I said that he wasn't, but Mad Max is in this movie.
Well, yeah, he is. So we essentially got two Mad Maxes. First of all, at some point, clearly they've gone, I'm going to say Warner Brothers, said, Okay, so we're going to get...
Is Mad Max not in this? They said.
They said, well, Furiosa's going to have some adventures with Mad Max, right? There's going to be a big action sequence with Furiosa and Mad Max. And George Miller said, well, this is before she met Mad Max.
Yeah.
And they went, can we just have a guy that is basically Mad Max?
He dresses like Mad Max.
He's even got the shoulder. He's got the shoulder pulled.
He does. So his name is Tom Burke. He's a war rig driver. He's called Praetorian Jack.
He has
the personality of Mad
Max.
Max.
He's Orson Welles in the movie Mank, if you've seen Mank.
Yeah.
He's got that Orson Welles head.
Also, watching this guy in this, I think he would have maybe made a better Mad Max than Tom Hardy.
Interesting. Okay, right.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought he was, I really liked him, but it was strange that they just put Mad Max in this twice.
Yeah, and also, yes. So there's a scene, there's a sequence where, of course, Furiosa is wandering in the desert. She's done another daring escape.
Yep.
And she collapses, and then we see essentially the identical shot of Mad Max with his interceptor on the top of a ridge from Fury Road.
Yep.
But
he doesn't have the long hair.
He doesn't, and he's eaten lizards or dog food or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it is implied that he probably drives down and rescues her and takes her to an insane cannibal woman.
So that's Mad Max's stuntman. That's Jacob Tomori, who was Tom Hardy's stunt double.
Now, do we need that? Do we need that sequence?
No, I don't think so.
Do we need to have to have encountered each other before they met in Fury Road?
I mean, they may not have encountered each other. I think it's left vague enough where maybe he didn't
Maybe he just drove off,
Yeah. I don't have a problem with it.
Well, good, because it happened.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it, so you'd have to suffer.
I think I preferred that to we see him, he drives down, he drops her off, he waves goodbye.
That's right.
I preferred this, actually.
I'll see you in Fury. I'll see you on the Fury Road.
If he's going to be in it. So I guess if you look at the comics, and I guess video game, but more so the comics, this is after he gets the car and Hope and Glory are killed.
Yes.
Before he goes fully feral.
If in fact any of that is canon.
Yeah, which it is.
Okay.
Or isn't.
Correct.
Ask the historyman.
No, anyway, I was talking about dropped plot threads.
Yeah, okay,
So
sure.
the initial action sequence, Furiosa is captured by some of Dementus's men, and they want to take her to their encampment. But of course, nobody can know where the green place is because people will come in and destroy it. So the goal of the residents of the green place is kill everybody, so that nobody alive knows how to get there. So, and the initial plot is that Dementus really, really wants to go to the green place because it's it's got abundance and what have you. And he's sort of derailed throughout the movie because they encounter a war boy.
Yeah.
And they learn where the Citadel is, and then they learn of the location of Gastown and the Bullet Farm and all those sorts of things. There's an element in this where Furiosa as a child draws a star map on her arm.
Yeah.
Points in the direction of the green place, and it's the arm that she loses.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, there's probably going to be a sequence.
Someone's going to cut it off. And
somebody's gonna want to know the location of the green place, and she's going to heroically cut her arm off so nobody can ever know because she's never going to talk. But then it just gets smashed up in an accident, and then she cuts it off.
Yeah.
Do you think that feels like feels like an extremely dropped plot thread?
I think I don't know. Maybe it was like a red herring.
Maybe it's a red herring.
That's what it felt like to me.
Maybe it's just an illustration of anything can happen in this place. Nothing means anything.
I thought the dude who was Mad Max, but not Mad Max.
So which one? Jack?
The fake Max.
Okay.
Was going to betray her. And so that kind of led to her distrust of Mad Max or people like him.
Right, yeah.
Whereas he's kind of noble and nice and teaches her everything she needs to know when they're in love, but then he betrays her.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just more kind of straightforward than that.
Yeah. It's interesting as well in this universe. There's war boys and demented bikers or whatever, and there's just some guys who decided not to play into it.
Yeah, we're not doing this.
We're not doing, hey, do you want to join my death cult and shave your head and cover yourself in white mud? No, I'd rather not, thank you. All right, well, you can drive my truck then, I guess. That's fine. There's a few
You're
of those.
normal, that's okay.
Yeah, you're normal, it's fine.
I mean, that's the guy you'd want, right?
Yeah, he's your executive class.
Yeah, exactly. So the Elsa Pataki character is... So at the start, she is initially going after little Furiosa with Furiosa's mum.
Yes.
They're going to do this action sequence together. But Furiosa's mum says, no, go back to the green place. I'll handle this. And then later, there's a moment where Elsa Pataki turns up again. Her gang is captured by Dementus.
So that is her.
And then in that fight, she loses her lip, her top lip in the fight.
Yeah.
She gets swatted in the face. And then she's one of the 5 that survive. And then she joins the gang.
Yes.
She's just a background character the whole time.
Yeah.
And I thought, this woman has been left in the wasteland or captured or went after Furiosa and her mother.
So that is Elsa Pataki.
It is.
Okay, right.
But they're not the same character.
Right.
And I thought, what an incredible story arc that they never spell out.
Right.
And maybe it'll reveal that actually is the same person.
Right.
I was fascinated by this this little story that was happening.
Right,
that
in the
they
background,
never
yeah.
mention.
So you could draw the line that she
You
went
absolutely
out. She
could.
went out on her own. She went rogue to try and find Furiosa on her own, and then
Yeah.
she ran out of hair dye, so her hair went to a natural black.
Yeah.
And then she got into trouble with a
Maybe
gang.
it was
she
all
joined
grease
a gang.
and
Yeah, right.
whatever.
Maybe.
Yeah, and she's surviving, and I think it would be a really interesting narrative where, like, sure, when you're in the green place and there's solar power and water and green place, and there's plants and animals and whatever, that's all great. But if you take most people out of that scenario and put them in the wasteland,
They'll go feral.
this is what's going to happen to them.
Yes.
And I thought, wow, that's really interesting until it's not. It's not that interesting, actually, because they're two different characters.
Yeah.
But again, I would love it if that I think I'm going to hang on to that. That's my idea of that character. Yeah. Anyways, revenge. Tree revenge.
Oh, yeah, at the end, we see numerous ways where the death of Dementors might be played out once Furiosa gets a revenge.
Yep.
And maybe the canonical version is she leaves him in the Citadel and
Plants a tree in him.
plants a tree in him.
Yeah.
I'm sure, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
I didn't mind that. I
Yeah, sure.
think I would have liked the idea that he knew who she was earlier. Kind of the end showdown between those two. It's just kind of a chat where it's like, you're this person and I'm this person.
I quite like the idea that he has killed so many people and this world is so harsh and unforgiving that he just forgot who she was.
Oh, I don't have a problem with that, but I just mean I think you could have had that play out earlier and then he realizes what
and
he
there's
slowly
some real
realizes
personal
what
stakes,
is happening.
because you're right, there is so much of this movie where he's just being
no idea what's happening.
being shot at. He's being sniped. All these men are being sniped by some random woman. He's like, well, okay, this is a Tuesday.
Yeah,
I guess.
exactly. Yeah,
you're right.
But also, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that speaks to like he just does this a lot.
Yeah,
this is every day.
Yeah, and I like the idea that in this universe, everybody is so damaged and everybody is so ruined by this
he talks
universe.
about his family, about what happened.
That's right.
Which also might not be true.
Might not be true. Yeah, exactly. That's right. He might have been an incel on the internet who just imagined all this.
Yep.
Oh, they didn't have the internet in the 80s.
No.
That's right. A phone booth guy.
Maybe he was
a
phone
guy. He
booth
was
man.
calling sex lines on in a phone booth.
He seems a type.
Yeah, that this world was so harsh and he was so damaged, and but it didn't make him a better person. And,
No.
this cycle continues and it's going to continue. Here's a plot line that I thought was odd. As young child Furiosa is traded to Immortan Joe in the Citadel to be one of his future brides, I guess.
Which is implied in the comics.
Yeah, and then she just disappears for a while and nobody notices for years.
Yeah.
And then a mechanic shows up in the Citadel.
Yep.
And is like, I'd like to work on these cars. And they go, okay, you don't have to show your face if you don't want to.
I think it's down to usefulness.
Yeah, I guess it's true, yeah.
People don't care.
And she just pretends to be a boy, I guess, for some amount of years. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was odd, given that all of Fury Road is about some brides who've escaped.
Yeah.
And it's all hands to battle stations as we find these brides. But in this one disappears and Immortan Joe doesn't even think about it again.
No, I mean,
I guess he has a bunch of other
brides. He's got
brides.
a bunch. And, and also that, again, that is implied in the comic, but also, and you remember this because we did a book club on it.
That's right.
Where she ends up being their security team.
Yes.
And that's why she ends up freeing them. So there's that element to it. Oh, also, and then Charlize Theron is in this movie. I don't know whether that's actually her or whether...
right at the end.
There's a moment where you see Anya Taylor-Joy walk in to greet the brides, and then the next shot, it's Charlize Theron, and then it's them all piling into the war rig.
Probably the stunt double.
It could be, but I think it was, or I think they might have just scanned her head to try out all the de-aging stuff.
Okay, sure.
And although I don't think any of that bride stuff, I don't think they're really there. I think that's probably old footage that they...
the
stuff where you see their face, because it is them. It is actually all the actors.
Yes.
Anyway, I thought that was a nice little kind of transition period. But then, then seeing most of Fury Road at the credits was a kind of odd choice.
Yeah.
I thought.
Are you trying to leave me with more positive memories of the movie than I had?
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to do here? Remember this better thing.
Did you stay till the very, very, very after the credits?
No, but I know that the reveal is that you see a Nux bobblehead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's not. It's his thing on the car.
Yeah, okay,
the little bird thing. Right. Yeah, I shouldn't have stayed, but I did. I shouldn't have stayed, Mason.
Shouldn't have stayed, but you did.
I've got some reviews here.
Okay, I'm ready.
This is from Rob, who says #WeeklyPunterPod. Furiosa definitely falls into the best movie ever category, serves as a backup / lead up to the extended chase scene that is Fury Road. Miller certainly knows his way around an action set piece. This is from Mistfak from Blue Sky and Social.
Sure, absolutely.
Says, saw Furiosa, and it was definitely George Miller's most fireside mythology Mad Max film. Makes me want to rewatch Fury Road and look forward to The Wasteland, best movie ever per Weekly Planet Pod Mythology.
How do you think this will work in chronological order? You watch Furiosa, then you watch Fury Road.
I think watch them in the order they came out.
Interesting.
I mean, it would work either way, but yeah. Brad Summers says, saw it this afternoon, wish I liked it, was just cars and sand, found it incredibly boring. Acting was good, but overall was super bored throughout the whole film.
Super bored?
Super bored, he said.
I certainly wouldn't say I was super bored.
No, me neither. Russell Michaels says, Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga was awesome. Chris Hemsworth plays a real dog of a bloke. Her arm loss origin reminds me of Crispin Glover's in Hot Tub Time Machine. I'm just waiting for it to happen. God alive, a prequel that doesn't suck. Best movie ever. And Prana Vanathan says, I thought it was good, not great. Acting and action was great, but oddly slow pacing and should have been 30 to 45 minutes shorter. I think I just set my expectations too high, as Furio is one of my all-time favorite movies. Still a cool movie, though. Oh, I got this last one from Sham, who says, Furiosa was a blast. I can't believe how incredible it was. Saw it in IMAX and it was stunning. Chris Hemsworth really stole the show, and I hope we get a gazillion more Dementis movies. Probably not. Maybe a cameo here and there, but I mean, it'd have to be a prequel or an in-between.
Oh, a prequel. A prequel, you say?
I would like to move forward with this universe.
Yeah.
But again, like, depending how this goes, I don't know if we will see another one of these for a while.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Who knows?
What do you think?
Maybe.
You want to see a Tom Hardy return Mad Max movie? Because
Yes.
I do.
I would love to see where this universe goes. Is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse?
Worse.
You know,
Worse.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Are they just going to have aliens show up?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, cool.
Why not?
Yeah.
Like you, I want to see what else.
What else exactly?
What else, you know?
What else? What do they do? There are some other Thunderdomes out there, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
What's happening in nations other than Australia?
What's on the coast,
Sure.
you know?
Oh, boats.
Boats. Maybe some boat max.
Fury boat.
There's a movie. It's about the ocean and it's sort of Mad Max and it's something, but I can't remember what it is.
Postman.
That's right, The Postman.
Wet post.
Oh, no, you got the post wet.
Yeah.
I'm the wet postman.
Oh, what did you expect? You hand your post to the wet postman, your post's going to get wet.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Me too.
More Mad Max.
More Mad
and
Max.
more Mad Max games.
Yeah.
But don't do the Warner Brothers model of making games by doing a bad game, which is what they do now. A bad open world game that you pay for forever and etc.
Yeah,
but I
don't
want
do
that.
I don't want that either.
Do the Mad Max game like you did. Do that.
Speaking of, did we talk about that? So,
yeah.
There was an interview with George Miller. Can
Yeah.
you believe it? And he recently met with Hideo Kojima of Metal Gear Solid fame.
Oh my God.
And someone said, "Would you like to make a game with Hideo Kojima, a Mad Max game?" And I think George Miller said, and I don't have the quote here, he said something like, we didn't have a great result with the Mad Max game.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
No, he's
were like,
not happy with it.
Yeah, and a lot of people were like, how dare you?
Yeah. But also, like, he would never have played it. He
exactly.
means in terms of, like, what he wanted to do didn't happen.
And probably also in terms of sales. Because
Sure,
it did
yeah.
okay, probably, that game.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, there was a big disconnect between what the producers of the game wanted to do and what they were told to do, and then they made what they were told to do, and then they were like, "Why'd you make this?"
Yeah.
We didn't ask for it. I mean, we did ask for this.
Yeah, it's good though. If you're looking for like an open world game where it doesn't like choke you with microtransactions, but you can do the Batman combat and you got a car and you upgrade the car and there's a guy in the car and he goes,
And look, I didn't play it at the time, but I've seen it running now, and it looks as good as a game.
Yep.
Pretty much can, it looks good.
looks and plays as well as you'd want it to.
Yeah. There's a certain point where the graphical fidelity doesn't really matter, and it just looks really good, and it seems to play very well. So
we looked at it on Never Go Back. If you want
It's
to go
true,
to
we did.
bigsandwich.co, we did like an hour dedicated to the Mad
right.
Max games. All right. Anyway, good.
good.
It's good to watch a good movie.
It's good to watch a
and
good
have things
movie.
to talk about.
Doesn't happen all the time.
No, it certainly doesn't. Didn't happen last week. Did it? What did we even talk about last week?
Something bad, probably.
Yeah, probably something bad.
Probably something bad.
All right, should we move it along?
Let's move it along.
To what though?
What are we reading?
What?
What are we going to read?
What?
Yeah.